Hello there, everyone. My name is Emilio. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And this is a video where I basically talk about movies and basically show off the movies that I've bought in on physical media. And today is just another typical traditional Blu-ray haul of movies that I've bought in recently. I've bought in a lot of movies lately, and I've been spoiling myself a lot. I think I've been buying out way more movies than I possibly have in the past few years now. So yeah. Anyways, Groove had a sale on their 4Ks. A few weeks ago, I went ahead and bought some great 4Ks. They had some really good deals on them. Basically, you get like what, three 4Ks for like 30 something dollars. Or you get two for 20. Anyways, it was a really good deal. And here are the movies I bought. I also did buy some Blu-rays, so I'm going to show off some of the Blu-rays I bought. But here are one of the first movies that I got on the Groove sale, and that is Shawshank Redemption. It is a 90s classic. Got Morgan Freeman. I always forget the name of this actor, Andy Dufresne. Tim Robbins. I mostly know him as the weird crazy guy from War of the Worlds. That was my introduction to that actor. But yeah, Shawshank Redemption, a really great movie from the 90s. This is a great example of like an adult drama that just feels like a big, epic, movie. It's a drama about these two guys, this friendship that these two characters have in Shawshank Prison. But it's just told in such a really grand scale, and I miss movies like this. They don't really make movies like this anymore. But when Oppenheimer was coming out, that's what Oppenheimer reminded me of. Adult dramas that were given a really decent budget to make something very epic and powerful. I want to consider this movie like epic in a traditional sense, like movies like Ben-Hur or Titanic. But it has that feel, and we got Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins, and a bunch of great supporting casts that play these great characters. Really great movie. Really, it's a '90s classic. There's nothing really else I can say about it. And here's a blind buy. Lately, I've been a huge fan of George Lucas. I've been rediscovering his work. I grew up watching the Star Wars films. I recently bought THX on Blu-ray, and I thought, why not buy American Graffiti on Blu-ray? It was 50% off at Barnes & Nobles. I basically spent like $8, $9 for it. I've never seen it before. I've always wanted to. I do know there's a 4K out there, but I've never seen this movie, so I decided to just get the Blu-ray. And there's some movies, if I really love them, or if I really hear that they're really good 4Ks, I will get it. But I've been hearing mixed things about the American Graffiti 4K. So I decided to get this. It is the last movie George Lucas made before Star Wars, and this movie is also still a movie that Francis Ford Coppola produced with American Zoetrope, so one of those great collaborations. Got a really huge cast, like Ron Howard, I forget the name of the other actor, the guy from Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But yeah, really good movie. Harrison Ford is also in this film, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this for the first time, because I've never seen it. So yeah. Now here is another 4K that I bought on the Groove sale. I bought Schindler's List, the 4K 25th anniversary. I believe 4K came out a while ago. I was debating if I really should buy this movie, because it's Schindler's List. It's about a very dark subject matter, which is the Holocaust. I also know that like nowadays people criticize Steven Spielberg. His movies are so melodramatic and too sappy or too optimistic. I've heard people criticize Schindler's List for this or anything, but I do think Schindler's List is a really great movie. It's a very powerful movie. You got Ben Kingsley, you got Liam Neeson. It's a movie that Steven Spielberg directed, and he directed this at the same time as directing Jurassic Park. So it's a great movie. It's not really a movie that I would say I want to rewatch all the time. I've seen Indiana Jones. I've seen all those movies countless times throughout the years. I've probably only seen Schindler's List just like a few handful of times, probably like less than 4 times. But I decided to buy it because I've been really getting into watching all of Steven Spielberg's films, and this is without a doubt, even though it's not one of my favorite Spielberg films, it is definitely one of his best films. That Saving Private Ryan. So yeah, I decided to get it, and looking forward to watching this on a dark, depressing, rainy day. It is a good movie. All right, it's really good. Great acting, great cast. Great cinematography, heartbreaking drama, shot almost like a documentary. It's Schindler's List. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not like a movie that you enjoy watching, but It's something you watch, kind of like a history lesson. So yeah, Schindler's List, great movie. Now let's go ahead and show off movies that are a little bit more not as depressing. Some of these movies are a little bit controversial. What movie not made in the last 6, 5, 8 years is not controversial nowadays? But here is a Clint Eastwood classic. I got the steelbook, and that is Dirty Harry. I've been binge watching and watching a lot of Clint Eastwood movies. In fact, there's more movies I have in this collection that I bought that I'm going to show off. But I've been wanting to buy this Dirty Harry steelbook for the longest time, and I'm glad I got it. Normally, it's on the Groove website for like $30. I'm tempted to get it, but I didn't want to spend $30. Luckily, they had a sale where you get 2 steelbooks for like $33. So I did that, and I decided to get Dirty Harry because I've just been meaning to get this movie for the longest time. I do also want to get the rest of the Dirty Harry movies. I want to get all the the Dirty Harry Blu-ray collection. Back in 2008 when Blu-ray was a big deal, they re-released the Dirty Harry films on DVD and on Blu-ray. They would show those movies all the time when I was like a teenager, especially on AMC. Really good, pulpy. Dirty Harry. He is the original action hero. Before John McClane, before Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, the cop thriller action movie in the 80s. We had Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry was like the modern action hero of the 70s. This movie came out in, I believe, 1971. So right when the 70s started. And I remember watching this movie when I was like 13 years old. My brother rented it on DVD at Hollywood Video. And I'm like, why are you renting an old movie from the 70s? Like, I don't want to watch a boring 70s movie. I was blown away by this movie. Clint Eastwood, who plays Harry Callahan. Clint Eastwood, he's a fucking badass. I fucking love Clint Eastwood. When it comes to old school Hollywood actors, and he's one of the last, that are still around. Now, I think Dirty Harry nowadays has always been criticized because, apparently he's a fascist. I don't really view this character as like a fascist. He's an action hero, and this movie does not take place in the real world. It takes place in an altered, heightened reality. When this movie came out, or when I saw this movie, I saw the same year as The Dark Knight, and that's pretty much what this movie reminded me. It reminded me a lot of like, this is what like The Dark Knight was like in the 70s. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. I love this movie. I've been meaning to get the Blu-rays of the Dirty Harry films. It's just hard because there's no American version. I have to get like a region-free version now. But yeah, I'm glad I got this steelbook, and I'm probably going to buy the rest of them on Blu-ray. And I got another steelbook, which is Full Metal Jacket. Classic Stanley Kubrick Vietnam film. It's a little bit dark. It's a little bit funny. It's a little bit controversial because it's talking about the Vietnam War. And, I think this movie got some mixed reviews. I remember, like, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel basically did not like this movie because they're like, Platoon was a better movie. I love Platoon. Platoon is a great movie. But Full Metal Jacket is not Platoon. It's a completely different movie. It's almost like a dark, satiric comedy. That's kind of what it is. It's just like seeing the study of these kids turn into these basically murderers. That's the best way I can describe this movie. It's a movie that when I first saw it, I wasn't fully in love with it, but I've rewatched it time and time again. And the thing about Stanley Kubrick movies is that they're not the most easy movies to watch. Like 2001, I bet you when you saw it for the first time, you're like, why the fuck did I just waste 2 hours of my time? But when you rewatch his movies, you get something out of them, you feel something, you just start liking certain characters a little bit more, or identifying with certain characters, or not in this case, because most of the characters in the movies are kind of like weird pieces of shit. But you have Joker in this movie, who is, I forget the name of this actor. I want to say it's Matthew Modine. It's probably not. I forget the name of this actor. But I've always recognized this guy. He kind of plays like a sleazy asshole in a lot of modern movies. Like, he came out in Transporter 2. That's the first thing I saw him when I was a kid. He also comes out in Dark Knight Rises. And then I remember watching like, it's that guy. What's he doing in this movie? So yeah, Full Metal Jacket, one of the last movies Stanley Kubrick made. So was like this and The Shining was the only movie he made in the 80s, and then he made Eyes Wide Shut like 10 plus years later. But anyways, Full Metal Jacket. Been meaning to get this 4K because I have most of his movies, like at least on Blu-ray or 4K. I don't have Full Metal Jacket, so I'm glad I got it. So yeah, Full Metal Jacket, classic. And here's just a Blu-ray that I bought at Walmart. I don't really have that many comedies in my movie collection. I've said that a few times. So I've been trying to build up the comedy, and I've been seeing this at Walmart along with Ted 1 and 2, but I decided to get this because these are classic comedies from the 90s, and that's the Adam Sandler comedies. You have a double feature. You get Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. I really liked watching Adam Sandler's films when I was like young. I'm not like a hardcore Adam Sandler fan because as I got older, his movies just started sucking. But there was a time when Adam Sandler made really good movies, and these are just like two of his like '90s classics. Him and Jim Carrey were basically blowing up at the same time. I seen Happy Gilmore on TV countless times. I remember seeing Billy Madison. I think my sister rented it at a Hollywood Video, and we were just watching it. We were like enjoying the movie, and my dad's like, "This is a stupid ass film," but yeah. Adam Sandler comedies. I haven't seen these movies really in years, so I'm looking forward to revisiting them. Hopefully they still hold up. Ooh, okay. There's like two other ones that I want to show off, but before that, here is Terminator. I finally bought the Terminator 4K. I did not own Terminator recently. I used to have the Blu-Ray a long time ago, but I needed to upgrade. I don't have the Blu-ray anymore. I have all the other Terminator films. Most of the Terminator films. I have Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I have Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Terminator Salvation, a movie that it's not like all that perfect, but I find it very entertaining from like an action blockbuster sense. And that was like the first Terminator movie I saw in the movie theater. But of course, I need to have the original, the classic Terminator. And I've also been meaning to binge watch a lot of James Cameron films. And why not start with Terminator? I don't own Piranha or Piranha 2, whatever the heck it's called. But this is like the first real legit James Cameron movie. And, I actually love all of James Cameron's movies. I even like the Avatar movies. They're not my favorite, but he's just a great sci-fi epic action director. Of course, this is more of like a small, gritty horror thriller. Okay, here are the last two movies that I bought on the Groove 4K special, and I'm going to show these two together because they're pretty much like these work as a double feature. I have Pale Rider, the 4K, and I have Outlaw, Josie Wells. So I bought these two together. Of course, with the Groove Cell, and they're movies I've been meaning to buy for a while. I remember seeing Outlaw Josie Wells when I was like 13 on TV. Absolutely loving it because this is when I got into Clint Eastwood. They would show the Dirty Harry movies a lot. They would also show the Sergio Leone Dollars westerns. Of course, these westerns right here, which I love quite a lot. But I'm lately been in a Clint Eastwood binge, so I'm buying some of his films. So Outlaw Josie Wells I love. I haven't seen it in a long time. I finally rewatched it again in years. I haven't seen this movie in like 15, 16 years or so. One of my favorite westerns, a really great western. I like what Clint Eastwood does with the western genre, like when he directs it. Of course, in the Dollars films, he's not the director. That's Sergio Leone, and those films have very much like an Italian flavor to them, like an Italian western gritty flavor. But there's something about Clint Eastwood's westerns that they feel they're not overly glamorizing the American West, but they're kind of showing the West for what it is in a way. That's at least what people say, and I kind of get this here. But I love Outlaw Josie Wells. It's just one of the coolest westerns ever. It's this man who basically loses everything. His family, his wife is murdered, and he becomes this cold-blooded rebellion in the Civil War. He's the only one left standing, and he becomes wanted by all of America. But Outlaw Josie Wells, Clint Eastwood is a fucking badass in this movie. Great movie. There's also a great supporting trio of characters that he goes along the way as he goes on this adventure. Haven't seen this movie in years. Rewatched it. Really great. In fact, man, I think this might be like my favorite Clint Eastwood western. I also need to get High Plains Drifter on 4K. Of course, I also have Unforgiven. But I bought that a while ago. I don't know if I ever made a video about that. But here I have Pale Rider. Pale Rider is a great, like these two, basically if you have ever seen the Clint Eastwood Dollars trilogy, and you've never seen any of Clint Eastwood's other westerns, I highly recommend watching them. And in fact, I kind of feel like these movies are like, it's Clint Eastwood doing what he would have done with The Man with No Name. And I feel like if you watch this movie, and you watch Pale Rider, and you also watch Unforgiven as like a Clint Eastwood western trilogy, it's actually a great trilogy. These aren't trilogies, they're all movies telling their own different stories, and Clint Eastwood plays a character in each of these films, including Unforgiven, but it's basically the story of what Clint Eastwood is basically doing with the cowboy archetype, and either he's deconstructing it, or he's reinventing it, but anyways, that's kind of, I'm just talking about these two movies together. But here's Pale Rider. Honestly, Pale Rider, I just decided to buy. They did also show this on TV a lot back in the day, but I always considered it the boring Clint Eastwood western. I wouldn't go ahead and say this movie's boring. It's actually really good. Now that I'm older, I actually rewatched it for the first time. This is my first time ever watching Pale Rider in its full entirety. You know, not on TV, not with commercials, and hey, it's a really good Western. It's a really badass Western. Is this movie slow? Yes. Clint Eastwood, he goes into this town. He's like this weird cowboy, but then later it's just basically revealed that he is a priest. It's basically a classic story. You have this cowboy who goes into this town where a bunch of no good cowboys are just ruining innocent people's lives, and you know, he comes and saves the day. It's a typical story that we've seen in a shitload of westerns, especially his westerns, but Pale Rider is just done in such a different way. There's a unique feeling and look that Clint Eastwood westerns have, that even though they're telling similar stories that we've seen before, they just feel kind of fresh and new. And Pale Rider has that same tone. I feel like you can say this and High Plains Drifter are basically the same movie. I want to talk more about that movie, but I need to get the 4K first. But I love Clint Eastwood movies. I love Clint Eastwood westerns, and I think he is. When it comes to like the Hollywood western cowboy, most people think of John Wayne. To me personally, I think of Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood got me into westerns, and he's one of the reasons why I got into watching older movies. You know, pre-70s, pre-60s. So yeah. Anyways, that's all I'm gonna say about these movies, and I think this is overall gonna be the conclusion of this video. This is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching, and see you later. Bye.